I see a lot of familiar faces from last time. I'm going to speak on behalf of, well, in support of Jim and his campaign, but before I do, I'll introduce myself. For those who may not remember me or don't know me, I'm the chairman of the Queensland Shooters, Fishers and Farmers Party. Basically the person myself and a couple of others responsible for getting the party up and running in Queensland. It had several failed attempts and got it registered, and we got a candidate standing. But the reason I'm former is because the party became like One Nation and the major parties and all the other parties. They started the party machine started to take over what was right, and which leads me into what I'm going to talk about today. And what are the two things that are that people hate about politics? The lack of honesty and the lack of integrity. And unfortunately, most party machines will steamroll those two things out of the equation. You may have a good candidate. There are some very good LNP candidates. There are some very good One Nation candidates. There are some very good candidates in the other parties. However, they are overruled by the party machine. And the reason I left the Shooters, Fishers, Farmers Party, because they started using green rhetoric and started throwing people that they claim to represent, being some farmers, under a bus just to get cheap political exposure. Now, when, you know, as I said, everybody hates the fact that there is no integrity and there is no honesty in politics. Well, from what I've known of Jim, I don't live with the man, but from what I know of him, he exhibits both those qualities, both the honesty and integrity, and he's not frightened to stand up and call it as it is. He doesn't grandstand, he doesn't do I'll use the Shooters, Fishers, Farmers again, what the member for Murray's doing down there, using green rhetoric, telling lies, throwing farmers under the bus just to get a bit of cheap exposure in the media, a look at me type thing. And you'll find the same thing happening with One Nation. And I'm picking on One Nation at the moment because they're probably one of the worst offenders between them and the two major parties. But this saying things because they're popular. Politics is a numbers game. So what do the politicians do? They play to the numbers. So they say things and their policies, they put their policies out that sound good, but that's where it ends. When it comes to a practical application, the policies go nowhere. So if they were to get into Parliament, as we've seen with the major parties over the last several decades, when they get in, they go nowhere because their policies sound good only. They don't have a practical application, or they can't be applied practically. The other thing that I wanted to speak on briefly was about the misinformation and politicians giving out the wrong message. How often do we see this happening? Politicians saying things because it sounds good, but at the end of the day, when you do a fact check on it, it's not fact. Then we've got our social media experts. They've never been there or done it, but they know all about it, and they like telling everyone else how they should be running their business. So what I'm saying to people is, look at the policies of the person, look at the policies of the party. I'm tied up with I've been asked to get involved with another party at the moment. I'm doing so only to supply them at the moment with policies. Until they get their policies up and running and give people some substance, I'm not going to be asking people to get involved with them, because until they've got something tangible that people can look at, then you really can't put your money on them. Jim's put out a number of policies. I've shared a policy of mine with Jim. I've shared it with Robbie Catter. I've shared it with the LNP. I'm pretty sure that probably Jim and Robbie Catter will be the only ones that'll take it up, but my policies are available to like-minded people. This is not about what's best for a particular party or a particular candidate. It's what's best for you people out there. And this is what politics has got to get back to. Not what's best for the politician, what's best for the people out there. We've seen what's happened with our successive governments over the last 5 or 6 decades. They're there doing the job for themselves for the next 4 years. They're not there for the people. They're not planning ahead. We've seen what's happened with water infrastructure. We've seen what's happened with manufacturing. We've got a great ability in this country to produce raw products. We have zero ability to basically process those products or value add. We're not self-sufficient. This is one thing we need to get into. The Gatton Withcott cannery is a prime example. Something we should be having here. The reason we don't have it here is because government are in the road all the time. Red, green tape, regulation and associated costs. We need government to get out of the road. We need government to step back. We need their bureaucrats to get out of the road. We need their bureaucrats to stop being disabling and start being enabling. We need them to stop saying, you can't do this. We need them to say, what can I do to help you achieve this? So if we can get people like Jim sitting on a seat in Parliament, and hopefully the balance of power between the two majors are going to be that fine, they're going to need the support of people like Jim. So what's he do? He says, well, what are you going to do for me? I want to get this, this and this. And he might be then able to get some of those sensible policies that he has in, and he might be able to get some common sense back into our daily lives. So, you know, the way you vote's up to you. I'm a Conservative voter. I'm certainly always going to put the Greens and Labor last. I'm going to put the LNP before them, but I'm certainly not going to put them anywhere near the top. I'll be looking at people like Jim's. I'm in Jim's electorate, so he'll be getting my #1 vote. Depending on who else is standing, I will look at that. It's up to you. You exercise your vote. How to vote cards, just quickly, I'm going to touch on those. How to vote cards. You choose where your preferences go, not the party. I have actually been vindicated in my resigning from the Shooters Fishers Farmers when the by-election down in the Monaro where they preference Labor above Liberal. Now, everyone knows, and your vote goes where you put it, but 75% of the population follow the how to vote cards. So what they did, they significantly contributed to re-electing a Labor candidate back into Monaro. So, you know, I'm not a dyed-in-the-wool LNP supporter, but I will put them ahead of Labor and the Greens, obviously. Oops, there goes the chart. But what I'm saying is you exercise your choice, you put your preferences where you want them to go, not where some party machine wants them to go. But all I can say is what I've seen so far, my advice would be to give Jim Savage your #1 choice. All right, that's all. Thank you.